Hi everyone, Dr. Orna here. As I am recording this, much of the western United States is in flames. Here in Oregon, we have a bunch of fires and very, very high winds that are combining to push the fires together and keep them ahead of what humans want them to do. So a lot of people in the state are evacuating their homes right now. I know some people who have cabins in the woods that have burned. It's pretty intense. Last night we saw major power outages in Western Oregon. There were some here, some in Portland where people didn't have power for hours, in part because of the high winds and in part to prevent the likelihood of downed power lines that would spark and lead to more fires. So it's a pretty serious situation. Portland last night was completely socked in with apocalyptic smoke. A lot of the Willamette Valley and Southern Oregon is socked in with apocalyptic smoke right now. So I wanted to talk a little bit about things that you can do if you too are socked in with apocalyptic smoke. So I made a couple of posts yesterday on Instagram. Go check that out if you haven't seen them already. Bottom line, stay indoors if you can. Stay away from the particulates that are floating around in the air if you can. Stay hydrated. That's super important. The way your body, if you breathe in the smoke, the way your body gets it back out again is a combination of the little hairs in your lungs moving things upward and mucus. So you want good, thin mucus that can sort of ride up those hairs and get out of your body. So the fancy term for that is mucociliary escalator, or maybe it's elevator. I always forget. I think escalators are cooler. So mucociliary escalator. So you need water to make sure that your mucus stays good and runny. And then there are herbs that can help support the lungs and their actions, including the mucociliary escalator or elevator, whichever one it is. So my number one herb that I use for wildfire smoke or really anything going on with the lungs is mullein. That's for Bascom thapsus. It is a weed. It grows all over the West. It grows in cracks in the concrete in the sidewalk in Portland. It's pretty easy to find. You can use that as a tea or as a tincture, and it's a great tonic for the lungs. So it's soothing to the lungs, and it does help this mucociliary escalator, elevator, whichever it is. Another great thing to do is to look for your demulcent herbs. So these are herbs that often get slimy in water, and that will help moisten tissues. Obviously, that's super important because smoke is dry. That's the whole problem with it, right? So this could include chia seeds, and with the chia seeds, you can just like put a spoonful in your mouth or on your salad, but just make sure you drink a lot of water, or you can put them in a glass and cover them with water and sip on the water. Marshmallow root, Althea officinalis, is another one of these herbs. Just again, cover with water. Also, fenugreek seeds are great for this, and I think they taste wonderful. But just if you have high estrogen symptoms like PMS breast tenderness, if you have any reason that you need to be avoiding estrogen, like you had estrogen positive breast cancer, something like that, a little bit of this is okay, but don't do this on the regular because the fenugreek seeds are estrogenic, and it definitely will trigger some of those symptoms like the PMS breast tenderness and so on. Another great thing that is very helpful for the lungs is honey. I have a big bunch of it just sitting over here in the sun. The sky here has cleared up a bunch overnight with these winds. So here in Portland, we have some pretty blue sky, and I'm trying to get the honey to be a little runny because I am going to put some herbs in that. Also for lung stuff, I was thinking more for winter. It won't be ready unless wildfire season goes really a lot longer than it usually does. So honey is a great one for coughs. And then a couple of other things that you can think about to help heal and protect the tissues of the respiratory tract. Thyme is one of my favorites. I like it as a steam, especially when things are dry. The steam can help open and moisten and loosen. And there are compounds in the thyme that are specifically healing to the tissues of the respiratory tract. Another great herb is elecampane, which I made a video about in the spring that I didn't really share very widely. It's over on my YouTube channel. And elecampane is a root. It's in the sunflower family, and it is very healing to the lungs. Sometimes it's a little drying, sometimes it's a little moistening. It's mostly kind of bitter and aromatic, so it's stimulating to the tissues. It can be helpful with expectoration, so getting that nice thin mucus that is coming up, helping it get out. Also, herbs that contain the compound berberine can be very specific and healing for tissues of the respiratory tract. So that would be Oregon grape. We use the root mostly, and also golden seal, which is can be over-harvested in the wild. So if you can do Oregon grape, my favorite, also local to my bioregion. After that, we start getting into the more aromatic herbs like the elecampane. I have some elecampane honey that's almost ready to press on my kitchen counter. And this honey that I have getting warmed in the sun here, I am going to use with Oschala, Ligusticum grayi, or Oregon Osha, which is an aromatic and warming, which is not necessarily what you want in wildfires, but it can be really helpful to improve oxygen exchange. It's also an antiviral, so I mostly save it for winter when other herbs won't do. But if that's what you have on hand, you might try it and see if that's helpful for you. And then there are a couple of other herbs that help with cough and spasm of the lungs. So the wind is picking up again. So Lobelia inflata is one of my very, very favorites. This is something that you should not take internally in anything but very, very, very small doses. It won't kill you or anything like that. It's not toxic, but it will cause digestive upset or vomiting if you take too much. But one of the things that's great about it is that it relaxes the spasms in the lungs or in muscles anywhere. So it's very, very useful, and it works as a topical. And I talked about it in my video about topical herbs. So you can rub it on your chest. If you can reach where your lung fields are on your back, or if you have somebody who can reach that for you with proper pandemic hygiene, rubbing it on there, and you can do that pretty regularly to help relieve those spasms. And then also California poppy internally is a good antispasmodic for coughs. But again, remember, you're coughing for a reason. It's about getting these things up and out. But the basics, if you don't have access to a lot of these herbs, don't worry about it. Just try to stay away from the smoke as best you can. This is where a lot of people here have N95 masks and had them before the pandemic because of the wildflower smoke that does come into the Willamette Valley here in the summers when it's an apocalyptic summer like this one. So N95 masks will filter out particulates. The cloth face masks probably won't so much. So staying inside. Last night I had a towel under my front door because a lot of wind can come in that way. So as a way to keep the smoke out. If you have fans inside and can keep the windows closed, it's still very much summer here, and it's going to be hot in the next couple of days. So for those of you it's hot, really do try to keep the windows closed, because those particulates, the problem with the really small ones is that they lodge deeply in your lungs, and the mucociliary escalator isn't enough to get them out. And breathing a lot of that smoke in is really bad for you, not just immediately to your lungs, but long-term in terms of your heart as well. So really trying to avoid that, avoid the smoke as best you can, and also drinking lots of water, taking in lots of fluids. If you're drinking just plain water, you may want to make sure that you have salt and some sugar going on in other parts of what you're taking in, so that you don't just take the water in and immediately pee it out and deplete yourself of electrolytes. So there's a lot going on. I am working on a written post so that you will have this in writing. But for now, I just wanted to make sure that I got this out in some form while people are needing it. One last medicinal plant I want to talk about is garlic. Garlic is, it's good for everything, right? But garlic has sulfur compounds, and onions do as well, that change the conformation of mucus from, thick and gloppy to smooth and flat and runny, which is what we want right now. Also antioxidants and all sorts of great benefits to garlic. So think about garlic right now as well. And that should be pretty accessible for a lot of people. You can throw that into a soup. You can eat it raw, throw it into salads, whatever works for you to get that in. Not everybody can do garlic, but for those of us who can, that's a good one to include in the regimen right now. So I hope that you all are staying very, very safe and not too terribly affected by the wildfires. And if you have any other ideas that you would like me to share, anything that I've forgotten, any tips that have really worked for you, please do let me know. Watermelon gazpacho. Another one of these soothing, cooling, hydrating foods as medicine. So take care, y'all. Stay safe and see you soon. Bye.